All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to All Sports BPT. I'm your host, Ben. Joining us today, our other host, Phil Cervello, off to the left of me. Below me, I've got Tolly Beatson.
Boys below.
And our special guest today, we have Mike Marshman joining us from France in the middle of a wonderful lockdown in this pandemic season. Welcome, Mike.
Hey,
Bonsoir.
thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate you.
Yeah, you're really rocking the stash right now.
Hey, when it's Movember, you gotta do what you gotta do. It's taken me about 5 years to grow, so that's pretty much the best I can do at the moment.
Yeah, I think this is about the best I can do as well. So usually I keep that shaved.
And it goes to show, if you put enough work in, you spend 5 years trying to perfect something, you can do whatever you want. You can chase your dreams.
So, Mike, explain to us.
Persistence. Anyone can grow a mustache.
All right, Mike, explain to us a little bit about where you are in France and your team name and like what the French league is like over there.
Okay, so the club I play for is called Cambrai Volley. It's basically northeast of Paris, about an hour and a half drive away. It's the closest city to us is Lille. The French league is now consisting of 14 teams, and they're it's all over the country, mostly predominant in the south. And there's been a lot of historic teams that have come out of France. So the league over time has become pretty credible, and for myself, I feel like to be a part of the league in general. So it's been a great experience so far, and especially now with a lot of South American players from Brazil and Argentina coming into the league, which is sort of refreshing for this new season. So yeah, I couldn't be more stoked for the season to keep going and see what can happen.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I know that, I try and keep up with things overseas. It's kind of hard since they never translate anything over to English, but I know that the French league has definitely been gaining some momentum. I think it's definitely rising in terms of the quality of play. I still think that Italy, Russia, Poland are like those top tier leagues, but I think France and like the German league are like coming up right now and really providing some good ball.
Yeah, that's 100% right. I mean, if you ask any high-level volleyball player or anyone who's played around the world, they'll still say that Italy, Poland, Russia, and Brazil actually are the top tier leagues, and they are for sure. I mean, not only do they have the best players in the world, but they provide the best salaries, the most professional sort of volleyball experience. But France has been very good historically. They did go through a little bit of a dip in level in recent years, but you still, every week I playing against national team players. I just played against Nicolas Le Goff on Montpellier, who played in the Olympics. Yeah. I played against guys in the second division here in France who played in the Olympics for Argentina, and it's others. But also Germany as well. Before, Germany was more so of course, Berlin and Friedrichshafen were the two dominant clubs, but now it's becoming more of the top 6 teams in Germany right now are starting to really make some noise and shake up the league a little bit. But the best part for me is now, like I mentioned earlier, with all those South American players coming to France, the talent pool in France right now is absolutely unreal. And any given matchup, a team can win. It doesn't matter whether it's the first place team against the 14th place team. you never know. It could be a coin flip that day. So I think that's the best part about the French league at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, that's good to hear. I know you had quite a few close games there.
Yeah, we've gone 5 a lot. I think we just love to play volleyball, I guess. But Khan's team is insane. Taylor Averill on the national team plays for them, and
I was just
they're
about
right
to
now
say
in
that.
first place. But we stole one from them earlier this year, so that was cool.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
And Taylor's been like a huge influence for me throughout my whole career. So just getting to play against him was sort of I don't know, it was a huge moment. That win in general was just huge for the team, because we're a small club, small city. So playing against a team like Khan was super cool to begin with, and then getting the 5-set win was just, icing on the cake that night. So pretty nice.
So I have a question for you. When you have games like that where you're playing against, almost personal heroes or, people you look up to in the volleyball world, does it kind of make you feel like you're kind of realizing your dreams as a professional volleyball player? Like, what's that feeling like?
At first, I was so nervous. I don't get nervous around anyone anymore. I was so nervous around Taylor for some reason. It was like, dude, why are you so, he's just a normal dude. I don't know, it was so weird. But, yeah, I was nervous, man. It was cool to see, your hero. I watched so much video on him because I try to model my game after him, and because I love his style of play. I love his, his creativity on the court. But it was just it was one of those moments where you're just you would never imagine yourself there before that point in time, and then you're finally there. It's almost like you're living an actual dream, but then you get over it really quickly. So you start playing volleyball. So there's a brief moment that's super genuine and really cool, and then just becomes volleyball again. And he's an awesome guy, he's trying to help me out, trying to get to the next level, because he's going to be, back in Italy or Poland sometime very soon. I'm sure of it. So, but super cool, awesome guy, awesome volleyball player, and definitely a memory I'll always have.
Yeah, it must be exciting for you. And I'm sure you were starstruck until someone tries to bounce the ball off your head.
Yeah, pretty much. We have a serve and pass or a warm up in the morning, and the home team always goes first. So Khan arrived after our warm up was done, and this was the time I was most nervous because I got to speak with him a little bit. And but once we started warming up, and once I saw him across the net, it was I got to hit a ball straight over you right now. So it wasn't any feelings anymore, but you can be competitive and everything like that, and it was never any hard feelings or any aggressive feelings towards it. But he did congratulate me after the match, and had a couple words with me, so that was also really cool too. And but yeah, the moment you try and the moment it's time to compete, there's no more starstruckness there or shyness. It's time to go, really. So
yeah. Now, is there anything in the French league that you see is so different from how you do things in college volleyball, or anything that you saw in terms of how the US plays?
There's a lot more technique in this level, and in the French league in general. But there's some similarities too. NCAA is all about physicality. I feel I remember my coach saying I don't you can every time, and that sort of aggressive style of play. There is that, but there's also hey, put your serve in, as well. So put in the seam. It's more technical. and there's a lot more details. And also, I think players expect more of each other. Like, we're all professionals and we're all here for a reason. I think there's a lot more of a standard, a lot more of an expectation. So you definitely feel that on the court, and you got to sort of like keep that confidence and keep going and build yourself up, because it can be tough, but I think that's the main difference. A lot of small little details, a lot more technical, ability, and just that sort of accountability on the court,
Yeah. I completely understand that. I played at Barton, so most of the players that we had coming and playing on our team were from international settings. And I definitely saw what you were talking about with the finer details. And while there was physicality there was also the attention to detail with these players. And that was something that I think they had to really adjust to, where everyone that's playing in these leagues over in Europe are really taking this serious. Like, this is their job. Whereas there's a lot of players who play in college volleyball that it's just a chance for them to continue to play ball, not something where they're really looking to take it to the next level. And you see it a lot of places. There's that mix of players who, they just wanted another chance to play volleyball, compared to like those guys that really think, hey, I can continue to play professionally overseas and actually make some money with this.
Yeah, that's a huge point, and that's something like I personally struggled with at St. Francis. I played there for 4 years, and I had to accept a lot of some people aren't here to normal. It's normal for people to go to school, get an education, and play volleyball, and that's it. And for me, I was so determined to be successful as a program, and to further my career afterward.
Might have lost you there, Mike. Well,
The Zoom call from halfway across the world. Sometimes there's a couple little hiccups, but
little technical glitches.
Yeah,
we'll get them back.
It was funny. We were talking before the last couple of days about getting everything set up for the Zoom call, and he was telling me that he really hoped that his Wi-Fi didn't crap out on him in the middle of it. Which, I mean, we were. Oh yeah, there he's.
That's
he's going.
the official note.
Yeah. So I do think that was a really interesting point of view that he had, not only from the playing against someone he looks up to that's on the national team, but also how much different volleyball is taken in terms of seriousness here in America compared to overseas. And I mean, I got that firsthand with the people that I played with. I mean, volleyball is my passion. I'm going to be involved with volleyball my whole life. But, some of those guys, it just wasn't, they just didn't care. It's something they did in high school, and they're like, oh, I get a chance to get a little bit of money off in college. And, that's a big difference. And I think, Tolly, you can definitely attest to that with your time playing soccer in the U.S. compared to what the seriousness of that was like in Europe.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it goes the same with essentially all sports. It gets to a point where everyone's height, strength, and speed is of a similar level. Obviously, you have those who are quicker, can jump higher, and are more explosive. But I think the biggest kind of technical difference between those who are at the very top or pushing towards the top and those who kind of sit in that bracket where they're just playing is the 6 inches between their ears. And I think that's where all the difference is made, because obviously it's just like a golf swing. If you can add 10 yards or you can make it that 1 yard more accurate, let's use a swing in volleyball, for example, if you can just get it closer or more specifically into a seam, you're going to get a lot more points. Or if you're taking a free kick and you can get it just that inch closer to the upright or with a bit more speed, I think that's where the biggest difference is. And talking of big differences, I think we've got Mike back.
Oh, there we go. We got him back.
Guys, I'm sorry. My sketchy French internet completely just cut it. So
it's all good.
Sorry about that.
It's all good. We were just talking about how you were texting me about that problem may be coming up in the podcast.
Yeah, really sorry about that. But I'll continue my response to what you said. I think that's a huge difference between international players and NCAA players, and that's just because when you're brought up in international volleyball in a professional setting, you have that sort of role of a job in your sort of progression in the sport, whereas for us, we played as a hobby and as a passion. So I think, yeah, that's a huge difference on the international level compared to the NCAA level.
Yeah.
So for you, when you did go pro officially, was there much of an adjustment going from kind of a hobby or a passion project over to like an actual professional team?
That's a really good question because it was very, very complicated. I feel like I definitely had a lot of adjusting I had to do because I thought I knew I wanted to be a pro, but I really had no idea what it took to be an actual professional volleyball player. So I had the passion, but really tough. And when you were really in that professional grind, you really had to adjust and be like, okay, so I'm not feeling the most passionate at the moment, but I need to work hard through this and get to where I want to be. And yeah, that was one of the biggest adjustments I had to make my first year in Finland. And not to mention Finland is one of the hardest places to live on your own because it's dark all the time. It's cold all the time. So yeah, there was a lot of adjustment that first year for sure.
Did it surprise you at the specific details that these coaches were going into and kind of the breaking down of film? Because obviously college and obviously being in the professional level, there's a complete different level of attention to detail on kind of the specifics of the sport. Did you find that quite surprising and a shock to the system?
A little bit, yeah. My first season, there was a lot of things that my coach was pointing out to me where I was just oh yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I can't believe I haven't done that before, sort of deal. And there's a lot that we would scout other teams and other setter. As a middle blocker, my biggest concern is the setter and his tendencies. So the way we scouted setters was very eye-opening to me. I always just in college, I would see who set the ball the most and who would be the person to, focus on during the money time. I was either so learning how to read the game of volleyball at that high level very fastly too. I didn't have a lot of time to really learn how to play it or learn how to read blocks. So, there was a lot of information being dumped on me right away. And now it seems so natural and so normal, but that first season was a ton of growth and just pretty much a dump truck of information, being dumped on me for sure.
So Mike, we've been talking about how everything's been going with the differences with college to playing in Europe. That being said, America still has one of the top volleyball teams in the world when it comes to the national team. I mean, do you think it's the attention to detail on the West Coast with California and some of those teams that kind of generate players that are good enough and physical enough to really compete with everyone else in the world?
I don't know if it's just I wouldn't put it just on the West Coast, because you have Matt Anderson, who's from New York. You have Max from Ohio, and Aaron Russell from Maryland. There's guys from all over the country on the national team. And what I think the most is that at that high level, because I did get to spend some time in the national team gym very briefly, like only 2 weeks, that level of coaching is insane. And when you guys get put into the USA pipeline, they just get significantly better, very fast. And I think we have one of the best coaching schools in the world, and I think that's where our success translates from. But I think it's because also we have such a large market to pick from. We pick the best athletes and the best players, and we put them with one of the best coaches or coaching staffs in the world. And the thing is, I think the rest of the country is way, way behind when it comes to the national team's level of coaching and the way they organize things and the way, everything is run. In those 2 weeks, I swear, I think I learned more than I did in 4 years of college. So I think, we're just very fortunate to have at the highest level some of the best coaches and some of the best athletes in the world to pick from.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. Sparrow definitely being one of the best, if not the best, men's coach in the country right now, as he coaches for UCLA. And that's interesting. You talking about learning so much, because I've known Rummy for a long time, and I sometimes think that he tries to know a little too much about volleyball, and definitely talks kind of over some people sometimes about volleyball. If you've ever been in those camps with all the high school players, sometimes you just see the dumb look on their face whenever he talks. And, I think that's unfortunately just the sign that, a volleyball for men in America isn't a really top priority. And even though we're able to get some of the top athletes in the world, still there's a lot of times where men's volleyball is a girl sport. And that, as you can kind of see, the whole middle of America does not have men's volleyball.
Yeah. And I think that's just the unfortunate reality at the moment. It's hard to really explain why, because if anyone gives the sport a chance, they'll instantly enjoy it and watch it, especially live. It's addicting. It really is something you would want to watch again and again, because the athleticism alone is insane. For example, if you watch Ben Patch play for Berlin live, you would want to go to a Berlin match every time just to see that athleticism over and over. But yeah, I think the stigma of volleyball being strictly a girls' sport hurts. It hurts the growth of the game, and it hurts, how many opportunities kids can get to enjoy this sport. So I hope one day that people sort of just accept it more and give it a try. And I know there's some leagues that are trying to really push for professional volleyball in the United States. Right now, it's just really difficult. It's really difficult because there's still that stigma. And but I think, anything's possible. I think the sport's been growing tremendously. High-level coaches are now getting into better positions. I know a lot of guys that I played against in college who are phenomenal, volleyball-minded people, are now starting to give back to the sport. So I hope that that the sport continues to progress that way as well.
Yeah, just adding on that, Mike. You said the level of the USA national team is far superior than your normal coaching levels. Do you think the growth of volleyball and the improvement of coaches is almost a lagging effect on the quality right at the top? That the quality from the top is now starting to trickle down, and you're starting to see these ex-pros and quality volleyball players from good universities and across seas coming over to the US and coaching university teams or school teams or club teams across the nation?
I think because I'm seeing it firsthand from my own friends who are, they played 1 season or 2 seasons at a high level overseas, and they immediately want to come home and they want to stay home and give back to the sport and stay involved with the sport the best they can. These are people who are very intelligent when it comes to the sport of volleyball, and they deserve to be in this coaching positions that they're getting. Where I think, like what Ben brought up earlier, was that on the West Coast, you seem to have like a lot of like powerhouse universities. And this is where I believe that some of the better coaching at the youth development stages come from. And I think that's from where you see guys at university staying in the local areas and coaching club teams like this. So if it were to happen, I hope that, as we said, the trend would continue to where high-level players that go play international ball come back to coaching universities and start to get the level of volleyball higher and higher as we go on. I do know, like, another national team guy I'll be playing against is Dan McDonald. Another guy I'm probably going to be starstruck over, but we'll try and get over that and we'll delay that a little bit. But I know he's also interested in coaching as well, so I could not imagine having a guy like Dan going back to coach a university or something like that. I would if I was any young volleyball player, I'd be super stoked about that, and I would want to know immediately what university he gets a job at.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. I mean, I know that, the minute you start talking about former men's national team players joining a coaching staff, I mean, the interest level just skyrockets. And, let's hope that we start to see that trickle down effect where they get pushed into some smaller schools or some East Coast schools, besides like an Ohio State or Penn State, that can really push us forward. But Mike, we want to thank you for being here with us today. Good luck with the rest of your season, and I hope you're not locked in your apartment for the rest of the year.
Thank you, guys. This was awesome. I wish you guys nothing but the best and success with the podcast. And again, thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys having me on to talk some volleyball.
Yep. Thanks,
Mike.
Thank you, man. Thanks for coming on.
We'll see you.
Take it easy, boys.
Yeah.
That was pretty interesting, guys.
Yeah, very interesting.
Now moving on to another volleyball segment. We have Payton here joining us from Athletes Unlimited. Payton, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, you guys.
Yeah.
Hello, Payton.
How's everything going with you?
Good. I'm currently in Newport Beach, California, so not a bad place to do work from home. And then we're getting ready for volleyball season coming up in February. So it's coming sooner than we all thought, but definitely really excited about it.
Yeah. It's really awesome to hear that there's some professional women's volleyball getting started in the U.S. I know that there's been a couple leagues over the past couple of years for men that have been trying to get going. But honestly, in my time in volleyball, I haven't really heard of anything really getting started for women's volleyball in the U.S. And of my personal belief, if there's one women's sport in the world that can really survive in the U.S. market on its own, I think it's women's volleyball.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I played at Stanford Northwestern, graduated Stanford 18, so I was on the 2016, 2018 national championship team. And it was so cool seeing that there were so many girls who like followed us and wanted to come to our games, national championship games, watch on ESPN. But after the collegiate level, it's definitely hard because you're playing overseas and you just can't watch your top favorite players. So it kind of just dies off because there's no professional league in the U.S. So I think AU just launching a new league for women's volleyball is definitely going to help our sport.
Yeah. So, you know, AU seemed to like jump onto the scene really quickly. I saw something about them starting like a softball league and them trying to start some other leagues for some sports that aren't as well represented in the U.S. Give us a little background on what really like AU is about and what they're trying to get going here in the U.S.
Yeah, so AU launched last March, so perfect time to launch a new league with coronavirus and everything started. But it's a league of around like 50 athletes per sport. And so they invite kind of like the top players that they think. So volleyball, our CEO came to Anaheim where the Olympic training team, they train. And so he reached out to Jordan Larson, who was super interested about it. She like, there was nothing kind of been like this before. I mean, I've heard of other leagues that have tried starting in the U.S., just didn't work, but there was something different about it. And it's because it was very player driven. And so the players are the ones who are inviting the other, their former teammates or their former competitors, people they know throughout playing, how many years they've played. And so they're the ones that are making the decision just because there's no coaches and there's no GMs. So it's very different because it's pretty much all player driven. So it's kind of like a fantasy league brought to real life, which is super awesome. I mean, I'm into fantasy football, and I'm sure a lot of other people are. So it's super cool that there's something like this for women's sports. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I think women's sports definitely get a bad rap sometimes. You know, there's a lot of stuff with like the WNBA getting some flack for their competition, and like the women's national team for soccer having some of their plights brought to life with some of their like justice stuff that they wanted to get figured out with equality in sports. And, you know, I definitely think that women's volleyball is one of the few sports I can say has the advantage in America over its male counterparts. And I think it's really about time that we saw something like this happen. And I think this is a really cool thing. Now I saw a little bit that it's going to be based like in rounds. So you have like the top point getter like wins the week, and then things get reseeded like each week.
Yeah, so it's completely different structure than normal leagues like the NWSL or WNBA, where you have different teams in each cities. And our CEO, John, he was actually the president of the NYC FC, the MLS team in New York. And so him and his friend, John Soros, who's the other co-founder of Athletes Limited, they thought about creating, they're like, what, should we own a WNBA team or an NWSL team? Because they really want to dive into women's sports, but they did their research and they figured that fans are actually more invested in the players, individual players themselves, rather than teams. So that's why Athletes Unlimited has all the athletes in one location for 5 weeks, and players and fans can follow their favorite athletes throughout those 5 weeks and see where they kind of go in the leaderboard. And there's new teams every week depending on who are the top 4 people with the most amount of points. So it changes every week because there's new teams, and people think that it's like more individual just because you're earning points for yourself, but there's also a big part where you earn points as a team that kind of helps you move up more in the leaderboard rather than just individual points.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely something that I was trying to get a grasp of was, I mean, that this is something that, I mean, it truly is like fantasy sports where we're trying to pick and choose and have a new team each week. But it definitely does bring a new dynamic. How are the fans going to be able to like digest this volleyball? Like, where are we going to be seeing this?
So it's a completely new structured volleyball just because, so it's actually the players are only playing 3 sets in each game, so not a 3 out of 5 match, but they're playing games every single day from Saturday through Monday. And so you get your teams from drafted that week, and then they practice for a couple of days and they play their games. And for softball, all 30 games were on ESPN channels or CBS Sports, which is great exposure just because women's sports in the past just hasn't gotten exposure. But we know that if once fans are able to get that content on TV, they're going to watch it. In softball, we had, I think, 4 million viewers just on the ESPN channels over 5 weeks, which is awesome. And we have a deal with Olympic Channel, so they're streaming our games in 200 plus countries. So it's unfortunate that fans can't come right now just because of coronavirus and we're in a bubble type environment, but we're able to play all of our games on ESPN2, ESPN3, CBS Sports, and now we have all of our games released for softball on YouTube. So we're really trying to give as much of our stuff to fans.
That's great to see. It's amazing to see, just the almost immediate growth of Athletes Unlimited, because I mean they were a relative unknown last year. I mean, hardly anybody really knew about it. Ben texted me about a volleyball league kind of out of nowhere, which really excited me as another fellow volleyball player. And back to what you said about the people rooting for certain players rather than teams themselves. Do you think that's a result of it being an Olympic sport where the top athletes kind of shine for the country and then they're the more recognizable people?
I mean, I think for volleyball, just because the college part is so popular, and so fans, they're gonna be fans of like Penn State or Nebraska, and they love their favorite players. So people are gonna want to follow like Carcelo from UCLA. So all the UCLA fans are gonna want to follow that or people who watch her in the Olympics. So it's, I think, individualized, like following individual athletes is super cool. It's unique. Just because you grow up like kind of idolizing certain athletes, whether they're your position or just people you enjoy watching, and you get to kind of follow them and see how they mesh with different players and get to play against some like the highest competition. So it's different. I don't know if it will work for like other sports like football because there are like so many people, but I mean for volleyball, I think just because like the college level, people love watching that so much, and there's really not much after that besides like the Olympic level, and you can't really follow people overseas. It's something hard, there's not much exposure. So I think this is just a completely different format that fans are gonna love.
I think that kind of setup is perfect because I think all people, they grow up and, as you said, they have some kind of gravitas towards their favorite athlete, and to have that exposure to these individual players, I think it creates a deeper passion for the sport. For example, you see Serena Williams in tennis when you see her on television, on YouTube, so you're watching the clips, or Alex Morgan for football. It kind of makes you kind of more, gives you more kind of texture into the game. You kind of feel more involved because you kind of feel personable towards that individual. So I think that platform is excellent for that. And as you said, you've created some excellent connections with ESPN. And where do you see kind of the mass market gravitating towards that? Do you think it would be more pushing towards Olympics, or do you think this is going to be an all year round kind of event that you're going to continuously keep on? Or do you think separate leagues will be the main target in the end?
Well, for right now, just because
We're having a great day of Wi-Fi connection, huh?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm hearing ins and outs of audio. So hopefully everyone at home is hearing the audio straight through.
Lost you there for a second.
we all
Payton.
good now?
Yeah.
Oh no. What I was saying is that Athletes Limited is going to be right before the Olympics, and so people are going to be, cheering on their favorite athletes, like Sheila Castro. She's a 2-time Olympian with Brazil. She's trying to push for her, I think, 4th Olympic Games in Brazil, and so it's really cool that fans are going to be able to kind of see her with Athletes Limited and then watch her. Hopefully she'll be competing in July in Tokyo, and so right now we have, I think, 4 Olympians as of now, as well as national team members from Puerto Rico, Canada. And so it'd be super cool to see those athletes compete in February through April and then go into the Olympics. And then for lacrosse, they have the World Championships before in July, and then our lacrosse season will follow that. And then for softball, we softball and Olympics in July, and then following that will be athletes limited season in September. So it kind of like all meshes together, and they want the athletes to play professional teams, and it's super cool to have them be part of AU. So they're really willing to work with their schedules, and yeah.
That's awesome to hear. I was looking at the players that you have like kind of on the overall roster on your website, and I have to say it's impressive the people that you're able to get. I know I've always followed men's volleyball. I mean, it's been my passion for years, and these men's league that I've started up, it's a lot of Division III, low Division I guys. But me looking at this roster, you got national champions from Penn State, Nebraska, Wisconsin, UCLA. And you got national team players and Olympians. Like it's impressive, and I don't think volleyball in America has ever seen something outside the Olympics quite like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely high level competition. In softball, we were able to see 56 of the top athletes, including Kat Osterman, who's the GOAT of softball. And for lacrosse, we just signed Kayla Trainer, who's the GOAT of lacrosse, and all these other people that are awesome. And so for volleyball, there's a good mixture of a lot of people who play professional volleyball for about 10 years. So they're kind of older side. And then we have our national team Olympians, and then we have some rookies like Leah Edmond and Tiffany Clark, who are just coming out of college. So it's going to be super cool. And unfortunately, we're unable to get rookies from the college volleyball season this past year, just with moving to spring. There was a plan to get some people who just finished their college eligibility, but hopefully for the following year, we'll be able to get some new people. I mean, it is hard playing overseas. Like, I have teammates who are definitely struggling. They can't come home for Thanksgiving or Christmas. So I've limited giving them an opportunity to play on home soil and earn a good amount of money while playing high-level competition is definitely something that athletes look forward to.
Yeah, that was something I was going to kind of go towards. How are the players going to be getting compensated through this? I mean, is it like the tier level of how you're doing each week?
Yeah, so every player gets a base salary of $10,000. So you just play your games, you're going to get a base salary around that. And then after that is your bonus based on what your point system is. So I don't know if you guys follow our point system yet. It's pretty interesting. We can talk about that too. But you're kind of fighting for more money based on how well your own individual stats are, and you can lose points. So definitely be interesting to see if players are more conscious and trying to not make errors so they don't lose points. But overall, your team points, your wins, and your set wins, your match wins are definitely going to be the most amount of points that you do get, as well as there are MVP points that fans are actually part of in the voting, and then the players vote as well. So then at the end, from the leaderboard from 1 to 44, that kind of determines your bonus salary. And then one extra part that is super cool that really no other league does this is we have a civic engagement program. And so each athlete chooses their own charity of choice. And whatever their bonus is, our partners will match half of that. So players are playing for a cause that means something to them, and they don't have to pay for that part as well. Just because it is hard, women don't get as much salary as men do, so they can't really help charities that they want to. And so Athletes Limited wants to be able to provide that type of platform where they can spread awareness about causes that mean something to them.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome to hear. And I'm actually blown away at the base salary. I mean, that's impressive that you guys are able to field such a salary like that. I mean, talking about a 5-week period. I mean, that's some good money. And that also leaves the door open if girls want to go overseas and get a contract overseas, that it's not taking up a whole year like it would if you were going to sign a contract in Italy or Russia or somewhere.
Yeah, like Jordan Larson, she's currently playing in China as well. She's doing a short season. Some girls coach on top of that just because, I mean, for women's sports, that's just kind of the reality where they're going to have like another job on top of that. And so some people are playing a short season. Some people are just training at home. They don't want to have to go overseas at all. So being able to, provide some type of platform, some type of new league where these players can make like a good amount of money. And then also another thing is that athletes are limited. All athletes, doesn't matter if you just play in the league once or many years from now, they will receive a share of like all the athletes, a percentage of the profits for the next 20 years. So that's definitely a long time now, just free money for them. So it's definitely super cool.
Yeah, I think it's excellent to be providing that opportunity, because I think one thing that female sports have lacked is that opportunity, because lots of people don't want to kind of pursue their dreams because they're obviously, as you were saying, the finances is not there as much as it is for men. So to be given this opportunity, I think it will spur growth with women who want to transition post-college or even pre-college if they're good enough to go into these leagues. And it should hopefully generate enough kind of revenue from fans watching the sports to give these women a platform so they can stay as professionals and they don't need to work second jobs. I mean, that I'm assuming that's the overall dream for you over there.
Yeah, I mean, for Athletes Unlimited right now, we just have kind of like one season, just 5 weeks for each different sport. But I mean, depending on how it goes in the future, maybe there's going to be like a fall and a spring league for each sport. So it's a little bit hard because we want to open it to as many sports as possible. I mean, our CEO even is looking at men's volleyball, which is awesome. I mean, huge men's volleyball fan, so that would be really cool, as well as like women's ice hockey. So there's lots of different possibilities for the future, and then there's kind of like seeing how it goes right now. Ideally, we'll be able to have fans by next July for lacrosse, so that'll be super cool. And then following year, we'll have fans for volleyball. But for now, sadly, they have to play in a bubble. But it'll be really cool having lots of volleyball on next spring with college and then Athletes Unlimited.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome to hear. I mean, I know this is kind of like a bold question here, and it might not even be something that you guys even have on your radar yet. But if this does take off, is there a possibility that Athletes Unlimited spread this out and kind of makes a WNBA kind like style league? Or do you think that this is just going to continue to stay like, like kind of all together seasons with all the players in one spot?
I mean, definitely just because their research has shown that fans are more into like the actual individual athletes rather than having attachments to certain teams and cities. They don't think that it'll be too hard to kind of like bounce around in different cities. That's why like one central location, kind of like the bubble, they thought about doing the bubble before they actually needed to do the bubble, and that working out pretty well. And just keeping all the athletes there for one period of time will be good. But I mean, for softball, it was over in Chicago at the Chicago Bandits facility where that's the MPF team for softball, professional softball league. And so they normally get a lot of fans there. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have fans, but it'll be interesting to see for future seasons how many fans will actually want to come into and watch games just because it's such high level competition. But they have kind of thought that making teams in specific cities is definitely hard to grow fan bases rather than just being in one place with all the athletes together.
Yeah, I think that's exciting because I feel like from your perspective, it creates almost like a March Madness kind of atmosphere in that singular location where there's a massive buzz around the sports, and lots of people may go to games that they may not have thought about going if it wasn't all in one location. So I think that's an exciting setup, and I think it's unique. I can't think of any other sports or any leagues in the world, honestly, apart from the Olympic sports, where they have all these multiple different sports in one singular location at one time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super cool just because there's been leagues in the past that have tried to try to start their own league, but it didn't work just because it kind of like wasn't different. It was just kind of the same thing that was happening over and over again. But with Athletes Unlimited, really trying to like reinvent the game with the point system, kind of with one central location, getting the top athletes. definitely has potential to really take off. And the exposure we're getting through our partners with like ESPN, as well as other sponsorship opportunities that we have with Girl Scouts and Little League, they're really helping the athletes like grow their own personal brands, and it's been super cool to see.
That's awesome. I couldn't be more happy. I've always been one that's advocating that volleyball is a sport that is ideal for our generation. It's quick, it's powerful, and it's entertaining. And America just really hasn't had that opportunity yet. And I think this might be the perfect time for something like that to happen and give people who knows how long this quarantine will really go into effect, but this could really be a time people have a chance to sit down and watch all these games and really digest what volleyball is.
Yeah, I mean, the point system is completely different. So I don't know if you guys saw it, but so it's, I can pull it up, but I think it's like 8 points for every kill a person gets, and then minus 12 points for every error. For serving, yeah, that's.
You're punishing people over there.
I know. It's going to be hard. I mean, I might have to help with keeping track of the points, so it's just going to be really fast. I'm like, I'm a little bit nervous about that, just because softball was really pretty much easy. It was just all like offensive points. But volleyball, there was just so much going on. So it's plus 12 for an ace, minus 8 for an error. So it's going to be interesting to see if people are going to be conservative with that, because a good pass is plus 2. So you're going to want to serve pretty hard because you don't want to just give easy points. But when you get ace, it's minus 12. So I guess kind of like passers, liberos might have like the hardest time getting points just because a dig then is plus 5. But then outsides are going to be able to have kind of the most opportunities just because they're going to be playing all the way around. And then a block is plus 12. There's no negative points for that. And then for setters, you get plus 1 for every assist, but minus 12 for every error. So that might be a little bit harsh just because who knows how tough the refs are going to be with calling stuff. So we'll see about that. And then it's plus 30 for every set you win. And then at the end of 3 sets, they're going to just take cumulative score, and then whatever, if it's 75 to like 50, then that team with the most points is going to win. So it's a little bit different, but they are playing 3 days in a row. So definitely to help save their bodies and just give fans something different to look forward to. And then after every game, they vote on 3 MVPs. So the first MVP gets plus 60 points, the second gets plus 40, and the third MVP gets plus 20. That can be anyone. So some people might think like, oh, like liberos aren't getting valued enough, or setters, they might have a hard time getting points. But if the team, everyone feels that that person just put a lot of effort in and we're definitely a game changer, then they're going to get the MVP vote. So it'll be interesting to see kind of who the players like really value. And then each week it just changes up with new teams. It'll be cool seeing if people keep drafting the same people just because they feel comfortable with them, so on.
Cool. I have just 2 more questions. First, do you guys have your athletes like training right now, or is there some kind of stipend right now where you're like allowing them to go to a gym and really prepare for all of this? And then secondly, how are you guys going to brace for like if there's an injury within the league and in the game?
Yeah, so for right now, everyone's on their own for training. So some girls are in Europe training with their old club team. Some people are playing shortened seasons overseas. Some people are coaching. Some people are just coaching like younger kids or training at their old clubs. So people are kind of just on their own. And then once season starts, they'll get 2 weeks before in our location, 2 weeks to train, and then scrimmages, practice with one another before competition starts. And then what was the other question? It was, with injuries. So we have a couple people I know, like reserve players, just in case something happens. In softball, we actually did add someone on. Someone had to leave for emergency. And so we had someone come on in, I think, week 4. So they always have people ready. Just it is a little bit tougher with COVID. They have to go through a quarantine if we need an extra person. So it's a little bit different, but they kind of have like the set 44 people who are going to play with like around like 4 reserve players in case anything happens.
So I have a question that I'm sure everyone who's watching and listening to you, I mean, it sounds very exciting. How do they follow the weekends and the tournaments and all of the news? Is there some sort of email subscription that they could utilize, or is it just on your website or social medias, or how would that work?
Yeah. So we have a lot of social media accounts. So for our main account, it's at AU Pro Sports, and that's on Instagram and Twitter. And our content is super unique. I mean, we're really diving into the stories of our athletes. They're creating content like letters to young fans, where they're just reaching out to younger generations, or we're creating like drill videos, other stuff where people can work on their game at home. Really just trying to create something different that hasn't really been done before, just because women aren't getting that online exposure within sports, and just helping our athletes create their own digital brands. For volleyball, our separate volleyball account is at AU Pro Volleyball. And then Facebook, we're on there as well, YouTube, TikTok. We have all the social media channels. Online, we have on our website, auprosports.com. You can find all the athletes on there, as well as you can sign up for a weekly newsletter. And we have all different content from there, from discounts for the shop to articles on our players and just fun facts. So definitely something that fans can look forward to.
Fantastic. I'm going to look forward to receiving a newsletter. Is it every weekly? Is it bi-weekly, or how's it work?
It is.
Okay.
Every single week. Yeah, go sign up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, Payton. Hey, thank you so much for joining us today. That was a lot of information at one time, and I think you handled that great. So, you're definitely doing a good job over there as a social media director. But it's great to hear about everything going on with Athletes Unlimited.
Yeah, thanks for having me, you guys.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that was excellent.
Good luck with everything in the future.
Perfect. Bye.
Bye.
We'll see ya. That was pretty interesting, guys.
Yeah, very interesting. The format is incredible. I mean, the innovation to create that kind of point system, it was very exciting to hear about, and it's quite funny. It sounds really exciting. I want to go to the games and go to the events, because it sounds like a gladiators arena. I mean, you're losing 12 points on errors. So I'm thinking, wow. Don't make an error, you're going to get punished for it.
Yeah, we were just talking with Mike Marshman about how things are a little bit more just like physical over here. That's going to be an interesting thing to see if the women do the same thing in this league, and they're also just trying to rip away. But that might cost them some money.
Yeah, it seems like hitters on the surface have an advantage, but if errors start racking up or they're not able to get some kills, thankfully for people like me, it'd be nice to see some of the liberos rack up some points and take a couple MVPs here and there.
Yeah. So we've got our next two guests on board. So Phil, thanks for being with us. We're gonna transition here into the NFL. So
thanks, Phil.
We'll see Phil later.
I'll catch you guys later. Hi, Brennan.
Hey, Phil.
All right, and joining us now, we've got Brennan Hurd, who was with us last week talking about college football and the MLB. And also joining us is the host of J&B Podcast, Brady Jones. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me back,
thanks
man.
for having me.
Exciting guest.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Hurd, I'm liking the glasses. We gained some nice new spectacles from last week.
Yeah, thank you. I can finally see. It's been the first time in 10 years. So
Yeah. And I'm sure we're going to have the MLB in a few days. I think we're going to have a discussion on that. But there's lots of news in the MLB. But let's start with the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to start off with one of the biggest stories that's still progressing right now. The Steelers are 10-0. And this is something that we touched on it last week with the media not really giving that much respect to the Steelers. And while they haven't had the toughest schedule, the Steelers are kind of known for choking some games away against some lesser opponents. So I think this is something that, especially for Steelers fans, this is something totally unprecedented for this franchise as a whole.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people are surprised at how Big Ben has been able to keep this form up. And I mean, he's quite old now, and he doesn't seem to be tiring. I mean, we're just over halfway through the season, and he's still performing as he did in the first couple games.
Yeah, I think what Ben said about the media is interesting because they finally don't play down to their competition for the first time in what seems like years. But the media still seems to be getting more petty. Ben looks better than I've seen him in about a decade. Chris Sims is still saying he's not a top 10 quarterback. No one has him in the MVP discussion, which I kind of get with the MVP, but to say that a quarterback of an undefeated team is not a top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now is ludicrous. And then ESPN released rookie rankings last week, top 10 rookies in the league. Chase Claypool is nowhere to be found. He leads all rookies in touchdowns. I think he's tied for fourth in the entire NFL with touchdowns. So it seems like the media's kind of got an axe to grind against the Steelers right now.
Yeah, 10 touchdowns in 10 games. I mean, to not even be he's not even in the top 10, I don't think, let alone top 5, top 3. I mean, you're putting out that level of efficiency to not be in conversation. It shows that it seems like, yeah, as you said, the media must have kind of something against a vendetta against the Steelers.
It seems like it. For the life of me, I can't figure out why. Because they say the Steelers have played a weak schedule, which is to a degree true. But, I mean, everyone – if they didn't have the Steelers number one in the power rankings, who would they have? The Chiefs?
Yeah.
Who have the Chiefs beaten? And more importantly, who have the Chiefs lost to? They lost to the Raiders, which I know you're going to touch on a little later. But Steelers haven't lost to anybody. So I really don't know why they're not getting the kind of respect they deserve right now. I'm not saying that as a homer or anything. I'm just kind of genuinely astounded by the fact that the Steelers are kind of, like you said, the media has an axe to grind against them for one reason or another.
Yeah, and you touched on their schedule, and the thing is with anyone's schedule in any league, you can only beat the team that's put out in front of you. Is it the Steelers' fault that these teams seem not to be up to scratch? You can, as I said, you can only beat the teams that are put in front of you, and they're consistently, mostly dominating teams that they're playing against.
Yeah, the media can't have the narrative coming into the year that the AFC North is going to be the toughest division in football and it's going to be scrappy. It's going to be a fight to the top. And then the Steelers go 3-0 against their division. Suddenly, oh, they haven't played anybody. The AFC North is no good. Which, I mean, with Baltimore playing the way that they've been playing, Cleveland isn't that dynamic, but they're doing what they need to do to win. And with Joe Burrow going down, maybe the AFC North isn't what people expect it to be, but it's still a top-tier division in the NFL. So they have to pick whether they want to hype up the AFC North as this clash of the Titans with 3 Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks in the division, or if they're just a bunch of scrubs and the Steelers have had a cakewalk to their 10-0 record.
Brady, let's hear what you have to say about this whole situation. I know you're a bit of a Patriots fan, so
yeah.
You've been used to your teams going the the distance, going 16-0 during the regular season.
Yeah, it hurts me to say this, but the Steelers are legit this season. I mean, their biggest test ahead of them are the Bills and Colts. So against the Colts, I think that's going to be their biggest test.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting if they're still winning at that point. Yeah, I think Ravens, they're going to pull through them. Washington, they're going to pull through them quite comfortably. Right?
Yeah,
do you agree with that, Ben?
Yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting game here with the Ravens, where it's not nearly going to play up to the hype that it was with. I think it was 5 players testing positive or being put in quarantine, and 4 members of their staff also being put into quarantine. So they're like both their running backs, Mark Ingram and Dobbins, are not going to be available for this game. So it's going to be interesting to see, is this offense going to try and figure it out against the Steelers, which, it's tough enough just saying that with probably the best defense in the league right now. But, it's going to be a challenge because they're 10-0 now, and the target's going to be on their back the rest of the season.
Feel bad for the poor Ravens. They only have 2 running backs this week, Gus Edwards and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. I think Lamar Jackson counts. They're struggling over there, aren't they, in Baltimore?
Yeah. Let's shift to that. Colin Cowherd had the Ravens going 16-0 in his preseason rankings, and had the Steelers down at 7-9. It's kind of looking like that's going to be flipped, with the way things are going right now.
No, I agree. And the Ravens are struggling. As you said, they're just kind of, whether they're being restricted through COVID or just through their play style, they just seem to be falling to pieces. And I'm interested to hear what you all think about the reason for that is.
Well, for one thing, from last year, this year, and I don't blame 16-0 is lofty, but I don't blame Colin Cowherd for thinking the Ravens were going to run away with the AFC North this year. I mean, they had the best record in football last year. Lamar Jackson's coming off an MVP season, but he's just kind of lost the ability to throw the ball. Out of 32 teams in the NFL, the Ravens have the 31st ranked passing attack. When he's not throwing the ball to Mark Andrews, they're really not working the ball down the field. Can't get the ball to Hollywood Brown, which has kind of caused a rift between the two of them. And they just don't have the kind of weapons on the outside that they're going to need to establish a passing attack with Lamar.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's going to be difficult for them to move on, I think. I don't really know where they can transition from. I think they almost need a breath of life in that city, and I'm not sure where it's going to come from. You thought with Lamar Jackson last year, you thought, okay, they're ready. They're going to do well for the next few years to come. You flip one season, he goes from being an MVP to a quarterback that rarely throws the ball. I mean, and look, you can be an incredible rusher and you can run with the ball all you want. But look at Cam Newton. As soon as teams work out that you're a running QB first and foremost, they're going to learn and they're going to shut you down.
I don't know if that's accurate when it comes to Cam Newton. Cam Newton could always sling it.
Yeah.
I would say that Cam was a solid quarterback who was a runner, and he never really made a transition out of that. Lamar came in. He was a running quarterback who had to become a good passer, which to his credit he did last year. But I think teams have kind of figured him out from the passing element. In terms of the running element, you're never really going to be able to stop a player like Lamar Jackson because he has his moments where he's dominant. He makes plays that an MVP Heisman Trophy winner makes. But and the secondary seem to have figured out what Lamar likes to do, a lot of short stuff, and they're making him try to throw the deep ball this year. And I think that's where things are kind of going sour because his deep ball hasn't been on.
Brady, let's hear about what you think about this whole situation with the Ravens.
I just think all the defenses in the league hasn't figured out this year. No, last year he was a rookie pretty much. They didn't really know how he played. This year, I think they got him figured out pretty well, making him throw the ball and slowing down the Ravens.
And you know, there's another piece to this. I mean, how much of this do we have to put on the coaching staff? I mean, Harbaugh went all in on Jackson being their quarterback. You know, they moved off of Joe Flacco with his career coming to an end there in Baltimore. But they went and devised an offense purely based around him and his strengths. And now, you know, I think their coaching staff has to really sit down and go, all right, you know, this isn't working. You know, we're not able to come back if we're down in a game, we're struggling just moving the ball at all, and we're relying too heavily on the run right now, which is funny enough to say in today's day and age with everyone throwing the ball as much as they are. But they do have to diversify their offense if they want to be a contender. And currently, they're sitting outside the playoff picture.
Yeah, no, definitely. And just to transition from that, from the Baltimore Ravens and struggling to move the ball up the field and struggling to click, what did you think about the Green Bay last-minute loss to the Indianapolis Colts? That seemed the Green Bay just went downhill in that second half. They couldn't get anything going.
You know, that's been the thing against Green Bay this whole year, and people have been calling them soft. And I don't know why they weren't more active in the trade market or in the offseason trying to bring in somebody on defense that can stop anyone, because the Colts went into halftime and just said, this isn't working. Let's just run the ball down their throat.
Mm-hmm.
And they did. And there was a point where they rushed the ball 6 straight times in a row. Like what NFL offense does that? And I can tell you, any offense that goes against the Green Bay Packers defense.
Yeah, I'll tell you why they didn't make any moves, because the GM's a stooge. I mean, they got knocked out of the playoffs last year completely by the 49ers run game. I don't think Jimmy G threw more than 12 passes in that game. The 49ers said something crazy like over 200 yards before contact. So they had 2 main things they needed to address in the offseason. They needed to get Rodgers more weapons, because guys like, and I'm sorry he's getting death threats, but guys like Marquez Valdes-Scantling and the other guy's name is Lazard are not going to be good enough when you have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. Devontae Adams is an incredible weapon, but you got to get Rodgers more help on the offensive side of the ball, and you definitely need to get the Packers more help on the defensive side of the ball. So going into the draft, what did they do? They jumped for a quarterback they probably could have gotten in the second round when Rodgers still has 4 years on his contract. That kid's not going to play for at least 3 years if Rodgers sticks around. And then the second round, they drafted A.J. Dillon, who's a running back out of Boston College, when Aaron Jones led the league in rushing touchdowns last season.
And they had Williams backing up him as well. I mean, that's something that I think a lot of Packers fans are really frustrated with. And if you watch the Pat McAfee show, I think you see a lot of that come out. And, you know, they had Aaron Rodgers on today talking about some of that stuff. And I think Rodgers is gone after this year. I can't see him wanting to stick around if they're not willing to put pieces around him to win. And you know, there's some people talking about, do you fire the defensive coordinator after this season? And you know, you have to wonder, is it him, or does he just not have the players good enough to stop anyone or to perform the schemes that he's putting out there?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. That game was strange to me because I think we'll all agree the Green Bay were like a flip of a coin. The first half, fantastic. I mean, they're moving the ball well, getting first downs on command, doing really well. And then the second half, I mean, do you think it is to do with the coaching staff? I don't know how you could have that have that kind of drastic flip at halftime. Maybe it was just one of those days, but I'm not sure if we're going to see them bounce back from this for the rest of the year. I mean, that sounds crazy to say, but when you lose a game like that, it takes some psychological toll. And as Hurd said, obviously we don't condone death threats to Valdes, but to be fumbling a ball in such an important time, I know it happens, but it's one of those things where if you can have these consistent psychological knocks and you keep being pushed back, it's going to take its effect.
Luckily for the Packers, they still do have the most talented quarterback in the history of the NFL, and he is notorious for coming back strong after losses. But if they lose Rodgers, I mean, they're a bottom feeder. He's almost single-handedly keeping them alive.
Brady, let's hear what you were thinking
Yeah.
about this Packer situation.
I think it can affect the rest of their season. I mean, you look at their schedule, they have the Bears coming up. That defense is pretty scary. Then you got the Eagles. They'll probably win that one. The Lions win. Panthers, that's going to be a close game. Then the Titans and Bears again. I mean, those 4 of those last 6 games, they're going to be tough for the Packers.
Yeah. Let's kind of transition here to another NFC team. And I think we can kind of touch on the NFC as a whole. There's no clear-cut best team in the NFC right now. And I think you can see that's evident by the fact that the New Orleans Saints are number 1 in the – like, if the playoffs were to start right now, New Orleans has the number 1 seed in the playoffs.
Ooh, and that's scary. I will give there's a few teams on there that are underperforming, but they have the talent. You know, they have something going for them. How the Saints are going to do without Drew Brees is going to be an interesting thing to find out for the rest of the year. But they looked good and this weekend. They looked okay. They looked like they dealt with it quite well.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Falcons they're playing against, so it's not like it's an upper echelon team.
Mm-hmm.
But for Taysom Hill, I think that's the perfect kind of game to get the jitters out and kind of see how he's going to react as a whole. I mean, I feel pretty good about their situation in terms of the quarterback. They're now 6-0 without Drew Brees, and I think you can put a lot of that on Sean Payton and being a really good coach. But they even have Jameis Winston. So if things start to fall apart with Taysom Hill, they have another very capable quarterback waiting for his chance.
I think when you talk about the success the Saints have been having, it can be attributed to 2 different things. One, the defense, which is not – New Orleans has never been known as a defensive team. The defense down there has been outstanding. They held you can say what you want about the Falcons, but they're a team with a pretty good offense. They start 11 first-round picks on their offense. The Saints' defense has held up the entire year. They managed to stay healthy. And I think that the defense for the Saints has made a big difference in putting them where they are in playoff position right now. But the other thing is Alvin Kamara. Defenses know Alvin Kamara is getting the ball on almost every play, more so in the pass game than even in the run game. I think he's somewhere in the top 10, if not the top 5 in receiving yards as a running back.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the defenses know the ball's going to Kamara, but they can't stop him. If I'm voting for MVP at this point, Alvin Kamara has my vote.
Yeah, Alvin Kamara, just as you were saying, he has 648 receiving yards and 531 rushing yards. I mean, that's an incredible group of statistics there. I mean, how do you stop him? I mean, I guess you don't. Is the problem that other teams are facing there?
Let's hear it, Brady.
The Saints are my favorites to win the NFC, with Kamara carrying them, and if they get Brees back, they'll win it.
Do you think that's realistic, though, that Brees is going to come back? I mean, what do you have, 11 fractures and a punctured lung?
Yeah, it's going to be tough, but I don't know the time frame of that injury. I doubt it's quick.
They put him on injury reserve, so, he's at least out for 3 weeks with the rules for injury reserve right now. I think the one thing that worries me, and I still have the utmost respect for Drew Brees as a quarterback and still think that they can, he can lead them far. I question his arm strength and if he's able to push the ball down the field. I think it's evident by Kamara having over 600 receiving yards that it's a dink and dunk system. Brees is dropping back quick and he's just dropping the ball off. And if that's that's going to pick up even more if he returns because, if I'm a 40-year-old dude, do I really want to go back out there and get my ribs crunched again? I'm going to be getting that ball out quick.
I'll give it to you that Breeze has lost a little bit in terms of arm strength and even accuracy, but you got to keep in mind he's been playing without a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL for most of the season. He got him back for 1 week before he got crunched. So I think that getting Michael Thomas back might get Breeze back in the rhythm whenever he can come back, if he can come back.
Yeah, and it's exciting as well. I mean, as you said, when he comes back, it's going to be big for the Saints. But the fact that Kamara is already putting up those numbers without one of your best wide receivers taking some of the focal point from the defense, I think, it could be dink and dunk, or it could just diversify their play, and I think they could improve, and it could give Drew Brees a little bit more time in the pocket potentially. But yeah, if he takes one more hit after that, I couldn't imagine he's going to want to come back to the NFL again. I mean, he has great mental strength. We've seen that. I mean, he's playing at 41 at such a high level. But those injuries, the older you get, the more you struggle to come back. So it'll be interesting to see if he's back by the end of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should also talk about another team that is underperforming currently, but I still think is the best bet to be in the Super Bowl, and that's Tampa Bay.
Yeah, they're having a hard time over there. That was a bad game to lose the other day, that's for sure. And I'm sure it was tough on Tom Brady, but as one thing you can never say is you can't count out Tom Brady. He can make anything happen from anywhere. So the fact they lost that one singular game, I mean, it's not going to make a massive difference in their season. They have a hard game coming up with the Chiefs, and that'll be interesting to see what kind of level they're at. Because if they put on a good performance against the Chiefs, you can see them going all the way.
I do think we have to touch a little bit on Tom Brady. For someone who he's in his 40s now, and he's pushing the ball down the field more than he has ever in his career. I think the only time you can really see him pushing the ball down the field was whenever he had Randy Moss on his team. But now with you having these 3 true number 1 receivers, Mike Evans, Godwin, and Antonio Brown, it's giving him a lot of possibilities. But the question I have for you guys, was it worth bringing Antonio Brown onto this team? And do you think that has just complicated the already problematic Tampa Bay offense even more?
I do think it was worth it because Tom and AB have had a great relationship. AB somehow didn't ruin that with his exit in New England. But, I mean, they're very close, and they seem to have great chemistry. He's been the top pass catcher for the Buccaneers the past 2 weeks. I think that a lot of the offensive struggles, if you want to call them struggles, I mean, compared to other quarterbacks, Brady's still playing relatively well. But this is a completely different system than he was in New England. Bruce Arians' offense is known to take a lot of risks, take a lot of shots. That's how you get a quarterback last year with 30 touchdowns and 30 picks. And Carson Palmer said a few months ago that his first year in Arians' offense, he doubled his career high in interceptions. And then by his second year, he was back to normal. So if this is a 2-year project, 3-year project, I think Brady's going to be fine. But in New England, a lot of his offense kind of came down to, throwing short passes to Edelman, getting his running backs involved in the passing game. And, I mean, it's all shots in Tampa right now.
Yeah, the only one question I have, and I'm interested to see what you think about this, is do you think Tom Brady's kind of, as AB has come into the team, he's almost forcing it? Because obviously you have Mike Evans and Godwin, 2 incredible receivers. Do you think he's almost forcing it to Antonio Brown at the moment to try and get him up to speed? Or do you think it's just because Antonio Brown is Antonio Brown and you want him on the ball?
Well, I think you have to look at it two ways. That Scotty Miller was getting a lot of attention from Brady as a slot receiver, and you've seen before that, you know, these little wide receivers running the slot have been really successful. A Wes Welker, a Danny Amendola, a Julian Edelman. They've had very successful careers just coming across the middle and Tom Brady finding them. So if Antonio Brown is probably running a lot of those, since Evans and Godwin are bigger wide receivers than Brown, I just think that that's more of what Tom Brady's comfortable with. And it might not be exactly what Bruce Arians is looking at in terms of the offense, but I think that it's playing to what Tom Brady's comfortable with. Is that good for the Bucs? I'm not sure.
I think you took the words out of my mouth on that one. The Buccaneers are using the AB in a different way than he was used in Pittsburgh. AB was a deep play threat in spite of his size in Pittsburgh. But I think you're spot on when you say that Tampa's trying to turn AB into the kind of wide receiver that maybe Tom was used to playing with in New England. A guy who's going to catch short passes. I don't think they've really taken many shots to him. And the knock on Edelman was always that he had a bunch of receptions, he had a bunch of receiving yards, but he didn't catch touchdown passes. And that's what we've seen with AB for 4 weeks in Tampa Bay so far.
Yeah, but now Brady has the weapons to actually catch the touchdown. So Antonio Brown's going to be moving the ball, and then he has 3 big targets in Godwin, Gronk, and Evans.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And it could end up with Tom Brady having another one of those incredible seasons, taking the Bucs to the playoffs. And talking of the playoffs, the Chiefs-Raiders game, what an exciting game that was yesterday. Pat Mahomes, I mean, he's in the MVP running. He's an incredible player. And then Derek Carr for the Raiders, a dark horse. I mean, he has had a career-changing time at the Raiders at the moment.
Yeah, Brady, let's hear about what you think about that whole situation, and are the Raiders possibly the scariest wild card team there is?
I believe so. I mean, you look at their offense, they got Josh Jacobs, Derek Carr, Waller. I mean, their offense is pretty legit. I think they could upset a team for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you can push the Chiefs, which they beat them in one game, and you know they were this close to beating them last night, that you know you have to say, do you want to see the Raiders in the playoffs? And you know, currently as it is, the Chiefs would have to see the Raiders again in the playoffs. So if the Raiders will be able to continue their success and keep that spot at number 7, you're gonna see the Chiefs not very excited for the playoffs.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you show from last game, Carr has bought in to John Gruden's game plan. I mean, he's 100% bought into that system. He's completely, I mean, it seems like he's reimagined his form. I mean, he's performing well. It seems like they've just started really clicking and firing on all cylinders. And their defense is strong. I mean, they're getting good stops. And I think that they are pushing to be probably one of the most dangerous teams that no one wants to go up against.
I think one thing about the Raiders is I think that, and I could be off base here, but I think they could potentially be one of those teams that's in the mix where they could beat any team, but they could also lose to any team. Most of their games have been decided by a touchdown or less, including to some kind of mediocre teams. And they finished the season playing, I think out of their last 5 games, 4 of those teams have losing records, and the one that doesn't is the Dolphins. So I think we're going to see a lot learn a lot about the Raiders over the next 5 weeks. What I do like about the way they played, though, is that they're a team that solidifies their passing game by using the run. Josh Jacobs has been as good as advertised. And I think that really opens up for some of the speedy players that they have that, might have been question marks. Aguilar had drop problems in Philly. He's been pretty good for them. Ruggs, another speed demon. So you can really push the ball down the field with your speedy receivers when you open up the run game the way they do with Jacobs. And they're also stopping the run pretty well.
Yeah, I think there are some questions, defensively, but when they have been holding their teams to under 18 points, they've been winning. And it's a recipe for success if they're able to replicate that week to week, especially if their offense continues to fire on all cylinders.
Yeah, and I hope they go from strength to strength. I hope they build upon this momentum that they have at the moment. I mean, you can take pride from losing by such a small margin against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I mean, they have dangerous pieces all over the field that can get you from any position. I mean, Pat Mahomes is a wizard. I don't know how he does it. I think he has some of Michael Jordan's magic juice to be able to performing at this level, and he's cool and collected. The most exciting part about Pat Mahomes for me is it's when it's third and long, he's not frantic. I mean, you honestly, genuinely believe that he's going to make the first make it to a first down almost every time. And especially when you have players like Travis Kelce who can bail you out of any situation. Tyreek Hill, you go long and he's faster than every single player on the field combined. I mean, they're a dangerous team. Whether that dynasty can stay together in the long term, because you look at all of their contracts, and when their contracts is starting to run out, I don't know how they're going to keep all of those massive superstars all in one team.
Hey, Tully, do you know it's in Michael Jordan's magic juice?
I'd love to know, what is it?
It's just water. You can find that out in the documentary Space Jam.
Okay, well, I'll look for that. I want to know what's in LeBron's water. I think he's the new Space Jam character, right?
HGH.
Guys, this was a great conversation today. Really appreciate both of you coming in. Brady, let's hear a little plug for your podcast coming up here.
Oh, we'll be debuting a podcast at the end of this week, hopefully, and then on December 12th we'll have a former NBA player on. That'll
Very
be exciting.
nice. And where can our fans find your podcast?
We'll be on YouTube.
Very nice, very nice. Well, guys, it was great to hear from you. Brady, good luck with everything with the podcast. We wish you all the best. And
thanks for having me.
Hurd, as always, it's been a pleasure. Until next time, guys, we'll see you later.
Love the insights. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right, Phil. Bring you back here. And finish up the podcast, and you're going.
It's dark and dingy over there. Look at that, you're taking the level down.
I've moved locations. I'm sorry.
You can't be doing that to our fans.
I just I got to keep everyone on their toes. That was great from Hurd and Brady. I think they did a great job. And it's exciting to see what's going to happen this season, especially with it seems like there are a lot of really, really good teams in the NFL, but it feels like the Chiefs are probably still the favorite.
Yeah, I'd have to say even with the Steelers at 10-0, I think that Patrick Mahomes and that offense is just too overpowered to have anyone stop them.
Yeah, it seems like they can get out of any situation, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a testament, because there's so much going on in the NFL. We try to touch on everything. Of course, we can't touch on everything, like the situation in Florida. But it'd be interesting to know what everyone thinks, what we should touch on if they want us to add more kind of the drama that's happening in the news, or if you wanted just to touch on the best games, I mean, that would be something to leave in the comments, just for further reference.
Yeah. But I think this was a great podcast, guys. A lot of information today. Some spotty Wi-Fi from around the world, but but I think we fought through that, and at least you're going to be able to hear some good stuff from both Mike Marshman and Payton from Athletes Unlimited. So everyone, let's make sure that we're smashing that like button, subscribing, and following us on all our social medias at All Sports BPT. To make sure that you're following along with everything, and make sure to tune in tomorrow night for the late night lounge with Tali and Ben as we dive a little deeper into the NBA news.
Yeah, lots of drama, lots of things going on in the NBA.
Yeah, and everyone who's listening, watching, whatever, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Stay safe. Quickly, what's everyone thankful for? I'll go first. I'm thankful for Hurd.
Yeah, I think we're all thankful for Hurd. His insights are incredible. I mean, he really has his finger on the pulse all over the place. Yeah, I think him and Ben especially, I mean, they just sit and just read news stories all day on the specific yardage. I'm sure Ben and Hurd could tell you the exact yards of potentially every player in the NFL.
Guys, I'm thankful for you guys, and I'm thankful that this podcast is going so well. So, this has been a fun time with you guys, and I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah, one more thing I'm thankful for: LeBron James. Let's hope he brings another championship to the Lakers.
Yeah, we'll touch on more on that tomorrow night.
All right, thanks everyone.
Yeah, until next time, we'll see you guys.
See ya.
Bye.